Hi everyone, I'm Erica from Madly Juicy and welcome to Creative Tips Tuesdays, where we invite a guest who's going to give you tips to build a successful business. And today I want to talk about finance. I know it can be a difficult subject when you're launching a business because you have your personal finance and the business one. So how do you deal with the new one? So to talk about it, I decided to call out a financial expert. Her name is Bola Sokumbi, and she's the financial expert behind the website The Clever Girl Finance. So Bola, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Erica. I'm excited.
Yay! All right, so let's jump into it. So I guess my first question would be, what is the most common financial mistake that people do when starting a business?
I actually think there are two mistakes, but the first one being that people when they go into business, they need to have a good business buffer, good cash cushion, so good money buffer. So a lot of times some people may go into business and not have that cash cushion or that buffer, and that's a big mistake because they sort of overestimate how quickly they're going to start making money in their business. And sometimes in business you have to wait a few months to lay things out, figure out your startup expenses before you start earning an income, and at the same time you still have to live your life and pay your own bills. So not having that cash cushion, not having that money buffer in your business or for your business is a big mistake. The other thing is starting out a business in debt. So, when people don't create that cash buffer or that cushion for their business, then they end up having to put their business expenses on a credit card, or they think that if they put their business expenses on a credit card, they're going to get the income flowing really quickly and they'll be able to pay it off. But that's not always the case. So, ideally, you don't want to increase your debt levels if possible when you start your business. And you want to make sure you have that cash cushion before you start your business.
All right, it does make sense, but at the same time, I understand people. Like you want to. Basically, it's kind of like the American dream, right? You get out of school and you want to launch your business, right? But you have so many debts at the same time, and also there's life. So as you said, there's other expenses. So I'm thinking about just the fact that there is building a family, buying a house, and on top of it, adding the business. Some people are going to make money fast and others not. And I guess as entrepreneurs, sometimes by waiting, they feel like it's not believing in their own project, in their own business. So do you really need to just not having debt at all?
Well, I mean it in the sense that, a lot of people, when they come out of school, they're coming out with student loan debt. They may already have credit card debt. So when you're starting your business, you don't want to add on to that debt. So you don't want to go out and take on additional credit card debt to fund your business. The best way you can figure it out is create a plan, right? So lay out a plan. What are all your current debts, your student loans, your mortgage, your family expenses, and how much room can you make to save for your business? The next thing you want to ask yourself is, what is my business idea? Is this something that's going to earn money quickly? Try to do some projections. How quickly can you recover your startup expenses? And when you project that out, then if you feel like, okay, I need to go out and take a loan, then you know that when you go and approach, that family or friend, or you walk into that bank, you have a solid plan that when you take out that loan, you have a way to pay it back because you've already created your income projections and you have an idea of how much money you're going to be getting into the business and how quickly you're going to get it back, so you can pay off that debt as quickly as possible. But I definitely think that, as a small business owner, you want to try to, especially given all the debt that you may already have, which is what I said before, you want to try to launch your business with little or no debt. And I know that, you open Entrepreneur Magazine and you see this person that says, I cashed out my 401k and I created $1 billion business, or, my father gave me his last $50,000 savings. But to be honest, those are really anomalies, because for every single one of those small instances of those crazy stories, there's hundreds and thousands of people out there who have done the same thing without any success. So you want to plan accordingly and make sure it makes sense for you.
Oh, what a great answer. I really believe what you just said, because that is still part of the American dream. That's the reason, uh, to motivate people, we sell more of those stories rather than the everyday stories, like you say, like so many people fail just because of money.
Like, people feel like they don't have to wait. So the thing is, you want to give yourself a timeline, right? I want to launch my business by 6 months or by 12 months, and then break down what all those costs are going to be and build it in and start saving towards that launch. That way you have a timeline, you're not waiting indefinitely, and you kind of can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you know what you're working towards, right? So it's not like, you can come out of business, you can come out of college and start your business right away, or you can quit your job today and start your business tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you need to make sure that you've proved your concept, that you know this business is going to work, that you know who you're selling your product to, you know why they're going to want to buy it from you, you know how you're going to price yourself. Like, there's a series of questions you need to ask yourself before you just quit your job, go get a loan, and start a business.
Makes sense. But speaking of which, like the series of questions, what would be the 5 things that you would say, the 5 financial things that you would say an entrepreneur has to do before launching a business?
Number one, the business plan. It's super, super important. Your business plan, like I said, helps you proof out your concept. It helps you understand what is your business, what problem are you solving, who are you solving the problem for, why should people care about using your business to solve their problem, and what is your competition doing? And then the next question you want to ask yourself, question number 2 is, okay, now that I've created my business concept and I've written this plan and I have a vision for my business, how much is it going to cost me to get started? And your startup costs are things like, your website, your admin fees, your domain name, your first inventory costs, things like that. And that way you have an idea of, okay, it's going to cost me X amount. And over the next 6 months, over the next 12 months, I need to save X amount to get my business started. You also want to think about how are you going to price your products and your services. So number 3, a lot of times people just create prices, but you want to put some thought into it. So number 1, how much time did it cost you? Because time is money to create that product. How much money did you spend creating the product? And what is your competition doing in terms of pricing? Are you pricing your product competitively? And if you want to price your product higher than the competition, then what is your value add? Why should anyone pay you a higher price? So you want to think about that when you think about pricing your product. So those are the first 3. Again, you also want to look at competition. So that's number 4. And competition is not a negative thing. It's not to see who can do something better. It's just to see what is your competition doing? Who are they? What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? And how can you make yourself more unique? And how can you make yourself stand out? Because there's no new business under the sun, right? If you're starting a business, somebody else is already doing it. So how are you going to make your business different? How are you going to have an edge on your competition? And that's what you want to think about. And then last of all, again, the financial buffer, the cash cushion, that money buffer, you need to have that. So if you're working full time, create a business savings account and start transferring money into your business savings account based on how much it's going to cost you to start up. In addition, you also want to think about, okay, if you're quitting your job today to start your business, right? You want to make sure you have money to pay your bills and expenses before your business starts making money, right? So you want to think about, okay, at the bare minimum, what do my essentials cost me every single month? And start putting that away. And once you have 6 to 12 months of a cash cushion in the bank, then maybe you can consider leaving your job if your business is doing well to focus on it full time. Or alternatively, you can work on your business full time and then get a part-time job to get you additional income. So those are my 5 things that anyone to think of.
Okay, I have 2 follow-up questions. So the first one will be about the pricing. So you mentioned, about when you're pricing higher. When you're putting higher prices, you have to have a value that comes with it. But I feel like actually it's the reverse that has been happening a lot, meaning that people have a tendency to put low price. And what are your thoughts about that? What advice would you give to people, about how to price yourself, especially at the beginning? Because I think that's the feeling that people have is that at the beginning they don't dare to, price to their value. So what would you say to them?
I mean, I really think that pricing is something that you need to really think about because, if you price too low, then your audience is not going to value. They're going to think it's cheap. They're going to think, well, why is she pricing so low? Maybe she's not really an expert. So think about your overall business, I guess, view or your overall business package, right? People are coming to buy your product because number one, they trust you or they trust your brand. They believe your brand is an expert in that field, in that service, or in creating that product. So you want to leverage that trust and that firm brand identity to, help you create that pricing for your business. So you don't need to price low, but you can price competitively, right? So if a product is $200 and in the market on average your competitors are charging $200 for it, don't charge $50 for it when you know that your product is good. So again, make sure you're creating a solid product and you make sure you've established a really good brand and start getting your audience to trust you. Start creating, create content that will support why your product is so good. Establish yourself as an expert in your field for your product, for your service, and use that to your advantage to price your product. So, take a look at a company like J. Crew. I always like to use them as an example because they're a retail store and they sell clothing, but they have a really amazing blog, and they use their blog to establish themselves as a fashion expert or fashion experts in the clothing business. And people go on there looking for trends and looking for outfits and fashion ideas and beauty tips, and they get that from the J. Crew blog. But then when they want to purchase something, they're like, you know what? I got that idea from J. Crew. I'm going to go check out their clothing website and see what I can purchase. And because J. Crew has established himself as this strong brand that is giving expert advice, people trust them and people will pay the high prices for it, right? It's not necessarily because they always have the best quality. It's because they have a strong brand and because people trust them.
Exactly. So it's a lot about branding.
Yeah, so think about the big picture, the overall picture, and also you don't want to price too low because you don't want people to think that you're cheap or think your product is cheap or not have value. So again, make sure you're creating a solid product. Like, how much time are you putting into it? How much is it costing you to create a product or service? And, based on that, price accordingly, and then start to before that, think about the big picture and establish your brand, establish yourself, build the trust.
All right. And I guess my next question would be about your fifth tip. So you mentioned, saving maybe for 12 months. And I think I've heard a lot of people saying you have to save for 3 years, like for you to survive for 3 years so you don't touch the money coming from your business. So I don't know if you heard about that, but what do you think about it? Is 3 years too much? Is it, what do you think?
I think that from what I've heard, and don't quote me, nobody quote me on this, but I think the 3-year thing is really applicable to like tech startups. So I'm not really sure, but I think 12 months is a good amount of time. I mean, once you're in the first quarter of your business, you need to do an assessment. It's all about managing your business budget. Again, so business budgeting is really important. You need to have a business budget, and it's about tracking your income and expenses and keeping your expenses low until you make income to cover your expenses. So when you do an assessment of your budget or you do an assessment of your overall business financials at the 3-month mark, you know if you're making money or not. And at the 6-month mark, you know that, okay, I only have 6 more months of runway in terms of my savings. So you need to create a plan. Either you figure out new strategies to reinvent your products, to remarket your products, introduce new products, adjust your brand, something, do your research. Or you think about, okay, how am I going to be able to pay my bills while I still figure out this business thing? So are you going to go back to work? Are you going to get a part-time job? So you don't want to wait until day 364 and your money's running out on day 365 and you're like, oh my God, I'm out of money. What am I going to do? You want to assess how things are going each quarter or even every month and see, okay, based on my projections, this is working out. Based on my business budget, this is working out. What do I need to do to get in more money? How do I need to adjust my products? What strategies do I need to put in place? So you want to it's an active flow of things, an active assessment. That way, once you're 3 months in, you're 6 months in, you kind of have a clear state of where your business is going, or what you need to change, or you figure out how you're going to earn more money.
It makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like your personal finance, basically. I mean, you have basically it's having a goal and each month figuring out if it's going well, basically.
Yeah, so you have to, and any basic business book will walk you through. I know a lot of them use very complex terms, but bring it down to what makes sense for you. Like even if it's just creating a simple business budget and think about, okay, how do I budget for my personal finances? I keep my costs, my expenses low so that, I don't spend more than I earn. With business though, sometimes you have to have expenses before you earn any money at all. So based on that cash cushion or that cash buffer you've made for your business, based on those startup costs that you estimated, you know how much money you have, right? And so you try to keep those expenses as manageable as possible until you start creating income. And then your biggest priority is, okay, how do I get this income generated? What do I need to do? And that's where you start thinking about the strategy.
All right, makes sense. Okay, so I guess my last question would be, what tools would you advise any entrepreneur to use? I mean, financial tool, obviously.
Well, good old Excel to start. If you're a small business, you need to get intimate with your business numbers. You need to understand every single one of your expenses. You need to understand every single one of your possible income avenues. And, that's something that's in your head. And a financial tool is not really going to tell you, oh, this is a strategy you should use to tie your service to this income stream. So lay it all out in Excel to begin with. In Excel, you can use that for simple business budgeting, and just to sum up things. Another great tool is Wave Apps. It's free. It's a free accounting tool, and in there you can put in your expenses. You can connect to your bank accounts, your business bank accounts. You can put in your income, and it creates reports for you like profit and loss statements. It helps you create tax reports. But again, you on a personal level, you can't leave your business finances up to an app. You need to understand it. You need to sit down with your pen and paper, your Excel, and crawl through it before you load this stuff into an app. And then when you have the app, print out those reports and get your highlighter and go over it. And then the other tool I really, really like is QuickBooks for Business. It's paid, but it's a bit more robust, and it has other offerings like if you need to have payroll and things like that. And it helps you do some really great things in terms of projecting out your business finances. So I like QuickBooks.
Yeah. To go back to Excel, I mean, I hate it, I always hated it. And when I started my business, it was the easiest thing to use. It's amazing. But I hate it. Ask me to use it for anything else, I would say no, But like you say, I've been trying to use different apps, different websites as well, to track my finances and all those things. And then I came to realize, you know what? Excel is really easy to use. And it's very logical, once you get your hands on it. I think it's a way to go. Yeah, I hear you for that. That's a great point.
And if you completely hate Excel, get your calculator, get your pen, and get a notebook.
Sure.
And draft it all out there. Use the apps. The apps are great. They automate things for you. They make things faster. But in terms of really understanding your finances, understanding the nuances behind your expenses and why you have this expense and how to cut back, and figuring out how you're going to earn income, those apps they're not intuitive. They can't read your mind, right? So you need to do that for yourself to start out with.
That's true. And they cannot predict life either, so no, but it's the truth. Because sometimes some things are coming up, right? But those apps don't. They're just waiting for the money to go down, basically, right? Or go up. So yeah, it makes sense. Well, thank you so much for these tips. It was very useful. Thank you for joining us. I believe it's going to help everybody. I hope you guys loved it. I did. I got some good tips from it. And if you have any question, please comment below. And I guess I'll see you next week on Creative Tips Tuesdays. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye, guys.